Hey, Lorin, it's good to see you and everybody out there. Welcome to another Practical Pet Chat. Lorin, it's the age-old question. The chicken, the egg, who decides what our pets eat, when our pets eat? Maybe I reverse that, but I'm seeing a lot of confusion. And I just had a conversation with somebody and I immediately pinged you and said, you're not going to believe someone was asking me my advice because their dog will never eat this. And I said, well, so what do you pivot to? And when they told me, I went, oh, yeah, that's like me saying to my kids, do you want vegetables or dessert? Of course, the dog, the cat, the tortoises, everybody's choosing dessert. I'm choosing dessert, except that, I have a little bit of self-control, very little bit. So at the end of the day, who is responsible for who is eating what, when, and where? My answer is you are. What's your answer?
Well, if I were to speak on behalf of most of my clients, I'd say the dog is
Okay. All right. So this
because
is a good one.
they let that happen. They let that happen.
That's exactly it.
It's like, well, he won't eat that. How do you know? Well, because I've given him this before and he didn't like it. He's never eaten it, like never ever. That protein, he never likes that, or he doesn't like it in that recipe or that formula or that brand. He doesn't like it as a treat. He doesn't like it as a dehydrated or freeze-dried treat. Never, like right off the bone, he won't eat that. If you tell me yes to all of that, then I can believe, all right, the dog won't eat it, period. But if you're telling me that the dog sometimes eat and sometimes doesn't, and I have to beg them. And, it's just like, I feel like a short order cook because I'm putting out 4 or 5 different things. Believe me, people, this is not rare. Trying to get them to decide what they're going to eat. So my husband and I are, okay. So right now, I have a very picky dog and she's eating something that's exceptionally well made. She normally loves it. She's being picky. So my attitude is just pick it up. My husband will be like, what do you mean? Give her something else? No, pick it up. Just put it away and I'll feed her for her next meal. Well, she'll starve. She's not going to starve. Trust me. If she were starving,
Oh, I'm
she'd eat
so
that
glad
right
you brought
now.
that up. Yeah.
And it's like, but I mean, what if she, gets faint or throws up bile? Or I'm like, she'll be fine. If she wanted to eat, she would eat that because this is like a kid throwing a temper tantrum. Once you give in, you're done. They've got your number, and all animals have time to do is study us. So I am a big believer in not a problem. I'll pick it up. You'll be fine. I have a little 3 pound dog. She rules the world except when it comes to food. I'm in charge. And if she doesn't want it, not a problem. I'll pick it up. By the next meal, generally speaking, she'll eat. If she doesn't eat, guess what? I pick it up. Now there are people everywhere that are getting on their computer to send me emails and tell me what a terrible pet parent I am, because I'm tough loving it. But it's like she'll eat when she's hungry. I know I've worked with enough rescues and have seen enough dogs that have eaten rocks that I know that dogs will eat anything in order to stay alive. So she'll eat when she's hungry. She's not sick. She's playing. She's drinking water. She's sleeping. She's behaving normally in every other way. She's trying to manipulate me to get something else. Like when my husband, if they won't eat, we'll give them extra treats. In
I
my,
love
in
that
my,
you brought that up.
yeah, in my world, well, if you don't eat, you don't get treats. It's
Yeah.
a lot like you don't eat dinner. That's how it was in my house when I was a kid. You don't eat your dinner, you don't get dessert.
You
So,
don't eat your dinner. That was breakfast the next morning in my
right,
house.
exactly. Which let me tell
Yeah.
you, peas are terrible the next
I
day.
could deal with Pete. It was the liver. It was liver.
Oh,
Couldn't
I
never.
didn't eat that
No.
ever.
My parents were mean. That's why I ask you if you need to adopt an older son. I'm available.
I'm not
And
old
I
enough to be
think,
your mother, but I'll take you as a brother.
okay, well, I like that. How about this too, by the way? This is brother sisterly love here. Send her my way and one cricket meal. And I'm pretty sure she'll run back home and say, Mom, I will eat whatever you put in front of me. Uncle Rob, he serves his pets cricket and his human
He
kids.
serves his animals bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't happen. No, okay, there are some things that her mom won't let her eat. So,
Okay. Okay. Well, oh, but so here's what's interesting about that though, too, right? Because like you, I've not only worked with a lot of rescues, but just so many people and really spent a lot of time with a lot of different unique proteins, foods, et cetera. And, it's something that fascinates me. And obviously, I've gone down the insect route because for a lot of reasons. Um, but that being said, I loved how you said the different ways have you tried it? Because that's what sometimes it's the texture of it, sometimes it's the look of it, sometimes they just don't like the smell of it.
yeah,
And so, okay, but what if I were to bring it together in a different way? And I mean, I am famous for, okay, especially when, Sugar and Zoe didn't want to eat the healthy food that I had made that they'd eaten previously, and I rotate. So I know sometimes in the seasons as I'm making a change, okay, you wanted to stay at the other season. Guess what? That's not what's happening here. Um, I would have to get creative. And so I might blend some things differently. I might chop some things differently. I might use my little smashy hammer and make it a different texture and combine the smells so you can't pick out, oh, I don't like that particular thing. That's what's also missing. And what's funny is people go, there's just so much effort, Rob. There's so much time.
that,
And
yeah,
I'm
that,
like, how much effort and stress are you causing yourself, which by the way then bleeds to your pet
yep,
because they feed off your energy. Oh my God, it's something. And that's the thing that always kills me too, because it inevitably leads to reaching out to Uncle Rob and saying, oh, something's wrong. Fifi or Fido won't eat their food. And I'm like, and I always love to. I'm like, how long has this been going on? I just put it down and I picked it back up 2 hours later. And I'm like, yeah, there's plenty of times I order something or make myself something, have a little nibble, and then I put it away for later. So you're not even in it's like the 24-hour rule here. You're not even in the thought of concern at this point. Um, but it's also like you're stressing, you're doing all these things when sometimes it's just a little bit of effort. And I laugh because I also, when you said the treats, Bella could put on a master's PhD course on manipulation and sucking her little cheeks in, like, oh, they don't feed me here. Oh my gosh. And she'll get that with the kids as well. It's like she knows the kids are just gullible enough that if she just lays there going 50 times, that they'll be like, fine, here. Dad, did you feed the dog? What does the chart say? Yeah, I fed her. Why would she eat over here when she can eat what you're eating? I love that you pointed out that observation. I mean, they've got us wired. And that's exactly. So it's the whole thing too. It's like, oh, so and so isn't eating. Sometimes it's because some other family member or a friend has shared some extra treats that you weren't aware
hmm
of. And they're just full. Sometimes it's, yeah, I've got something going on in my stomach. I'd rather go outside and eat some of the, different, things in the garden to calm my stomach. I'll eat a little bit later today. It's also why picking it up, I love, love, love that you brought that up, is not a form of punishment. It's a
no,
form of acknowledgement. Hey, take it off, remove it from their environment, reset, come back later, doesn't work, reset. I love you have the fortitude, most people don't. And so I just love that. But you
well,
and
I've
I
had
are
to
saying
deal
the
with it.
same thing as
We
far
are,
as the
yeah,
pets decide. I've seen so many cats do this as well. The difference with different animals is where are they getting their, fluids from? I'll say it that way. Because they do need that moisture intake. So sometimes, you got to figure out and replace rather than just remove. Totally get that. Understand.
yeah. I feel a little less strongly about that with cats because cats not eating is not an option.
Yeah.
So, it's like, okay, I can, we're all slaves to cats. So the cats rule the world and that's just how it is and that's never going to change. Um, so I get that. when customers come in and they go, but she won't eat wet food, and I've tried, and she just wants their crunchy food. Okay, we're talking about a cat here. Now we have a long drawn out process of trying to make a switch or introduce something. Not always, but more often than not with a cat. But dogs, especially when dogs are typically liking their food. Now, over the past couple days while I've watched Delaney do this, I realized as I started looking at her bowl, because we make her food fresh all the time, um, we're making too much food for her. She's a 3-pound dog, and what looks like enough to us is really too much for her. And so I said, we need to cut this back in half to my
Yeah.
husband. And I said, cut back on the treats, which they only get like two tiny little niblets a day, if that. I said, so no treats until everybody's back to eating their regular food. And and he's like, well, what about Bellamy? She's eating. Why doesn't she get her treat? I go, because we not giving a treat to one and not the other. So sorry, Bellamy. But when we cut back their food and they get more dialed in and we create hunger, when you create hunger, you create desire.
Yeah.
So it's really basic. It's just that we're such soft touches to, those big eyes that stare at us and, are like, ugh,
Yeah.
kind of a
I,
thing. And it's like, okay, but I want to get past this. I don't want this to continue being drawn out. And the only way to get past it is to not play the game. Pick it up. I'm in charge.
well, I love that you brought up too. You can't, it's an all or nothing for the animals when you've got multiple pets in your household.
Mhm.
And what's really interesting is, boy, you just sparked me with a conversation I recently had with a good friend. It was, I don't get it. They're now being territorial and aggressive. And as we walked it back, when did you first started noticing that? When did it first happen? It was a feeding issue, and because they were giving treats, they were the two dogs, big dogs, would go at each other over the treats because that's what they both wanted, but only one of them wanted to eat. And when you've got multiple pets too, you got to be really diligent about, this is your bowl and this is your bowl. You can't just leave it
Nope.
because one can eat both. The other one might not care. You've got to really be supervising that. So I love that you just brought that up because yeah, that is really funny. Boy, that it's tough because you're right. You just get that sweet little look and the like, are you sure you don't want to give me a treat to let me know how much you love me? You know.
Well, and my favorite was when clients would call and say, well, if I or they would go through the process with me and I tell them, what they needed to do, and they'd look at me like I was telling them they needed to walk off of a very short plank into the ocean. They'd say, well, but if she doesn't eat, she'll throw up. Okay, she throws up bile, that's stomach acid, because she's not eating to absorb the acid. It's okay. Let her throw up the bile. It's not the end of the world. She's not throwing up food. She's just getting rid of some of the bile in her stomach. And I go, well, call me afterwards and tell me how she's acting. And they'll call me and I'll run them through how's she acting? Well, fine. But she keeps staring at me, I said, because she's probably hungry. Well,
Yeah,
can I feed her? No, wait till her meal time and then feed her as per normal. And they're like, okay. And then I would inevitably get the call. She ate. Thank you so much.
yeah. Exactly. And the whole time in your head, you're thinking, yeah, I never had a doubt that was going to happen. I understand you may have had that doubt.
Thank
Um,
you for letting me hold your hand through this because I get it. It's tough.
it is. It is. I love that we talked about this. One last thing though, I cannot let this slide because you brought it up and it's so huge. We look at the bowl and put our assessment into the bowl, and that is an us thing. Um, we if you take a scoop of the food you're preparing and you put it in and you're like, oh, that doesn't look like enough. I'd be starving after that.
I'd be.
I'd be, yeah, that's the difference. And scaling it downward for whatever reason really hits people hard.
It does.
And so, yeah, I always tell people when I see they've got these huge bowls where the bowl is as big as the pet. And I'm just like, I'm just curious, how often do you fill that? Because if you put like what should probably go in there, the tablespoon, that's got to look pretty empty to you. Well, yeah, I mean, I do. And I'm looking over at, this poor animal,
Plump. Yeah.
pleasantly plump. And I'm like,
Fluffy.
yeah, I'm like, uh-huh, okay.
Well, and I've had to tell clients that too. So your dog is 5 pounds. Let's talk about how big the stomach is in a 5 pound dog.
Yeah,
And they'll look at me and they'll go, well, but she'll eat it all. Well, yeah. You stick me in front of a plate of nachos, I'm going to finish the whole thing off. Doesn't mean I should.
right. Well, and that's all, like, I guess, look, here's some simple guidance for y'all. If your pet can fit inside the feeding bowl
Oh
and use it
gosh.
as a bed, you probably have too big of a bowl. Okay. And you know what? It does bring up one other on a more serious note. For cats in particular, this is something that I do want to call out. If they're not eating and you're looking at the bowl, look at the design of the bowl. Because one thing I am greatly aware of
Yeah.
is they do not like their whiskers hitting certain types of materials and bowls.
Whisker fatigue. Yep.
Yeah. And so, keep that in mind as well. Look at that little nugget at the end. Wow. I'm impressed with myself. I'm going to go treat myself. On that note, cricket. You want cricket, Lauren? Cricket cupcakes?
No,
No?
no, no. I'll never eat at your house.
I'm eating healthy.
I'll never
Uh,
eat at your house.
well, send us your fun tricks, your fun tips, practicalpetchat@gmail.com. As always, thanks for joining us for another conversation. And I know there is someone who needs to hear this episode. So please share that with them on your favorite network. Really appreciate y'all. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as, nor should it be construed as, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for your pets. Always seek the advice of a qualified veterinarian with any questions you may have regarding your pet's health or medical condition. Never disregard professional veterinary advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The hosts and the guests of this podcast are not liable for any actions taken based on the information shared during these episodes. Any reliance on the information provided is solely at your own risk. Copyright 2026 Practical Pet Chat. All rights reserved. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or reproduction of any content from this podcast, including but not limited to audio, scripts, and show notes, is prohibited without prior written consent. The opinions and views expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Practical Pet Chat.